Alright everyone, this is the final run of Daily December. Today, we'll be seeing how fast Silvally can beat Pokemon Moon in a solo run challenge. Let's get straight into the video. This is going to be a very interesting run. This will be my first attempt at a pure normal type. In previous generations, normal types have been very overpowered, getting moves such as Return and Headbutt, especially with them getting the same type attack bonus. But I don't think they're going to be as great in Generation 7, because from the last 6 runs that we've done, well, the first 6 runs, pretty much every single typing struggles in this game at some point. Even the Fairy type isn't completely safe. But maybe Silvally will give us a fighting chance. Our stats are pretty simple. We have 95 in everything. This is essentially a worse version of Mew, and what else makes it worse is we are in the slow level up group, while Mew was in the medium slow level up group, which means not only do we have less stats, but we are also in a worse XP group, so we need more experience to level up. And obviously, with how Generation 7 handles experience, it's going to be quite hard to overlevel the opponents. But before we go over the moveset via level up and TM, I want to go over our ability, nature, and hidden power typing. Our ability is RKS system. It's kind of meant to sound like Arceus. Essentially, if you hold a specific item, the memory discs, this will allow Silvally to change its typing, as well as the typing of its signature move, Multi-Attack. However, these discs are not available until the post-game, so we're going to be stuck as a normal type. And our hidden power typing is Hidden Power Grass. And this isn't for the reason you may think. We're not going to really need this for the water trial. This is essentially to help us EV train our attack stat easier. Because for attack training, we're going to want to be training on Picky Peck via the SOS method, and we want to make sure that one of them survives in red health, and Hidden Power Grass will be a good way of doing that. And our nature is going to be the naive nature. This is plus speed minus special defense. We have 95 speed, so maybe the plus speed nature might help us outspeed some speed groups coming up. In addition to the fact that we don't really need special defense as much as other stats, I've tended to notice with our Moon playthrough so far, physical defense is far more important in the late game. There's Gladion's Crobat, there's Hala's entire team, there's Olivia's team, there's Kahili's team, and Professor Kukui's Lycanroc are all physical attackers. So we are going to want to make sure we don't lower our defense. And now, with that stuff gone over, let's look at our moveset. As you can see, we get a lot of level 1 moves. Most of them we will not have access to until we get to the top of Mount Lanikia and get access to the move reminder. But for this run, we start off with the moves Rage, Tackle, Thunderfang, and Ice Fang. Alright, at least we get some nice coverage early on. And unfortunately, you know how in Generation 5 they buffed Tackle to 50 power? Well, they nerfed it to 40. So essentially this move is now identical to Scratch. Still better than when it was 35 power and 95% accuracy in the older generations. Then at level 10 we get Pursuit, and then pretty much every 5 levels we gain more moves. We'll get Bite, Aerial Ace, Crush Claw, Scary Face, X-Scissor, Takedown, Metal Sound, Crunch, Double Hit, Air Slash, Punishment, Razor Wind, Gross, Tri-Attack, Double Edge, and Parting Shot. And I just realized on the overlay the move Parting Shot is in there twice. Oops. And if we take a quick look at the TM section, we get a lot of very decent coverage. We'll have access to TM1 Workup, as well as TM75 Swords Dance. So at least when it comes to setup moves, we're pretty much gold. And in addition, we'll also have the Stab Return. However though, we don't get Return until after we beat Nanu on the 3rd island, so we're not going to have access to it for quite a while, and our best normal type move is probably going to have to be Crush Claw or Takedown. But some other decent moves we get are Dragon Claw, Ice Beam, but not Blizzard, Thunderbolt but not Thunder, Shadow Ball, Flamethrower but not Fire Blast, Aerial Ace, Flame Charge, Steel Wing for some reason, I don't know where this thing's wings are. And then we also get Shadow Claw, Giga Impact, Rock Slide, X-Scissor, U-Turn, and Flash Cannon. So this thing essentially gets everything it wants. But remember when I said earlier at the start of the run, I was like, I'm not so sure that normal types will do good in Gen 7? Well, here's my reasoning. We're not going to have any problems against the normal type trial in the Verdant Cavern, but my main worry is actually the first Kahuna fight being against Hala. And since a bunch of our level up moves are dark type moves, we're probably going to have to rely on Tackle. Or perhaps Thunderfang and Icefang, because when you include the same type attack bonus, Thunderfang and Icefang are 5 effective power stronger than Tackle, but Tackle is more accurate. But I can probably see us needing a flinch or a freeze or paralysis to win, because we are going to be weak against all of his moves. But for right now, we don't need to worry about that too much. I can quickly clear out the trainer school. I do get 1 reset on the Magnemite just because it is a Magnemite. I can get myself the Silk Scarf in front of the clothing store to increase the power of Tackle by 20%, which might actually allow Tackle to be better than the Fangs, but I'm not sure. At least the Fangs will give us a flinch chance. And I also can't believe I'm saying this, but we actually do need to play the Totem Raticate's intro. This fight actually gets hard. The Raticate starts off with a defense boost, which isn't great for us. I go ahead and use 1 workup, get hit by Tail Whip, and then a Rattata spawns in. Then I use another workup, get hit with Scary Face, then I go for Tackle. Then the Raticate hits me with Bite, causing me to flinch, my Oranberry gets used up, Tackle only does half, and then, yeah, things get quickly out of control from there. The main way I end up beating this guy is on my second attempt. I set up 1 less time with workup, and that ends up being the solution because the thing is, since I'm going to underspeed the Raticate because of Scary Face, that does open me up to flinch chances. So I essentially have to 4-shot it with Tackle after 1 workup and just hope that I do not get flinched. And I do get lucky on the second try and finally beat the normal trial. Before I continue the rest of the island, I'm actually going to stay behind in the Verdant Cavern and actually do some SOS training on Zubat. Zubat are going to give speed EVs. I do need a specific amount of speed EVs for the late game, but besides that, there are going to be some pretty good training because I am still very worried about Hala, so I'm just going to do this to get some XP, and I may as well get some useful EVs out of it. But looking back at this, it might have been a better idea to EV train on attack first, but when you're at lower levels, EVs are far less meaningful. EVs are essentially a long-term game, not a short-term game, so I pretty much just fight the Zubat just because they're higher level and give better experience. But fun fact, if I was playing Pokemon Sun, the Young Goose in here, instead of Rattata, would give attack EVs, so that would be a huge advantage to physical attackers, so they don't have to wait for Pikipek. And interestingly enough, while SOS training on the Zubats, I get to level 15 and I actually deny the opportunity to learn Bite. You may be wondering why I did that. Bite is weaker than the elemental Fangs, but the Fangs have a flinch chance too, albeit not that great. But looking back at this, I might have been able to get away with deleting Thunderfang, and if I need to, I can just use Hidden Power Grass on the Wishy-Washy. So that might have been a better idea because Bite has a 30% flinch chance while the Fangs is 10%. Something else that I actually do try to do is actually attempt SOS training on Wild Mankey, but this is not a good idea because they only have a call rate of 9, which means they're not as likely to call for help. For those of you wondering what I mean by 9, the call rate is anywhere from 1 to 15, 15 being the most likely. Pikipek have a call rate of 15. So if I get Pikipek into red health, they'll have a 75% chance of calling for help. And with Mankey, that chance ends up being below 50%. So it's not really that worth it. I pretty much just did it for the experience, that's effectively it. But anyway, I attempt Hala at level 18 holding a citrus berry that I got from a big berry pile tree. So let's see how this goes. Hala leads off with a Mankey, and the very first thing he does is uses Focus Energy as I use a workup. Okay, so far so good. Then on turn 2 I use another one and get hit with a crit Karate Chop, followed by another crit karate chop. I am definitely setting up way too much here. Then on the crab brawler, my plan is essentially to go for Ice Fang on it and either hope for a 10% freeze or a 10% flinch. However, I decide to actually black out, which is kind of annoying because I end up having to run back to Iki Town because Iki Town does not have a Pokemon Center. But I still think this is the right call because there's really nowhere else good to gain experience. And then on the second attempt against the crab brawler, I actually do get the freeze with Ice Fang. Then you know what else happens next? The Makuhita just goes for fake out and I can easily two-shot it with tackle because I outspeed. And because of that, I am able to defeat Hala on the second try, at a time of only roughly 32 minutes. So honestly, that was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There are a lot more fights coming up that aren't going to be that easy. Before I head on a boat to Akala Island, I enter the Mele Mele Meadow, enter the Seaward Cave right here, and get myself the Expert Belt. This will boost the power of super effective moves by 20%. And normally I would also get Acrobatics, but sadly, Silvally cannot learn this move. That's a darn shame, that'd be so useful right about now. Having a 110 power flying move this early is insane. I do make sure to get the Shell Bell as well before I leave. And now with all this stuff obtained, we can head to Akala Island. There are 4 major events here: the Water Trial, the Fire Trial, the Grass Trial, and the Kahuna fight against Olivia. The Water Trial fight is never really that hard. The Fire Trial is difficult for a lot of Pokemon. And the Grass Trial can be difficult if you don't have a good answer for it, or if you're not running Hidden Power Fire. And Olivia is just hard all on her own. This game is just hard in general. But one of the very first things I do is I go enter the Pokemon Nursery and pick myself up the TM for Hidden Power. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going with Hidden Power Grass. So now is the point where we need to start our attack EV training. I'm going to head into the grouse south of Paniola Town. I still hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm going to wait around until I find a Pikipek. Then I'm going to use Hidden Power Grass and hope it survives in low health. Then I'm going to attempt to SOS train on it as long as I can. Even though we have 95 attack and we get moves like Work Up and Swords Dance, we're still going to need a bunch of experience for later parts of the game anyway. So we may as well do the EV training now. Because here's the thing I've started to notice with these Sun and Moon playthroughs. You kinda have to use EVs to make up for your lack of levels, because losing out on the 50% experience boost that trainers used to give you, you miss out on a bunch of levels. And rather than just grinding on wild Pokemon near the end of the game, you may as well do the same amount of training in the early game to just get EVs instead. And you may be thinking like, hey, aren't you just EV training just for the sake of EV training? Me and John, who taught me a bunch about Sun and Moon, we went over a bunch of the ranges in the Elite Four and Champion and Kingler Calc. If you want to know my exact plans for them, in the description for most of my runs, you'll find a pace link that will take you to my notes. So if you want to look at those and review them, feel free to go ahead. And if you're wondering why I'm not using Pastebin, that website randomly just banned my account with no explanation. I have no idea why. I tried to email the admins and I got no response after like 6 months. So yeah, I'm using Pastelink. But to be fair, it's a lot quicker to use, and there's not as many scam crypto links on it. I don't EV train on the Pikipek for much longer, then I can go north to Brookett Hill and start the water trial. Just like the Raticate before, Wishy-Washy also has a defense boost, but I do have Hidden Power Grass on my moveset still. I can go ahead and use it, and it does half, but he heals it with a Citrus Berry. And because of that Citrus Berry, I am going to have to 3-shot it, but it's pretty funny seeing the Totem Wishy-Washy convert to a normal Wishy-Washy. So yeah, that was a pretty easy fight. Alright, fire trial time. Before I start that, I enter the Thrifty Mega Mart, get myself the TM for rest, as well as buy a bunch of repels. I do fight some of the trainers on Wella Volcano as well before starting the trial. I'm hoping that'll be enough for the Salazzle. I'm not too worried because the Salazzle has a special defense boost instead, so let's see how the fight goes. The Salazzle starts off right away. I go ahead and use a Crush Claw, and I heal a little bit with Shell Bell. And without any setup, the Crush Claw actually did more than half, which actually kinda surprised me. That was especially thanks to the attack EV training. And I ended up missing my next move, but that's fine though. The Salandit can't really do too much to me with Venoshock, and since I can't go back to Crush Claw because of Torment, I have to use Thunderfang first. I almost died, but then fortunately at the very end, I level up to 26 and we can move on from the Fire Trial on the very first try. Then, as we continue our way to the Grass Trial, Colress gives us the TM for Flame Charge. This can definitely be useful for some fights if we need a little extra buff in our speed. And it could be our answer to the Grass Trial too, especially if the Lurantis summons a cast form to set up the sun. But I actually decide not to use it today and just stick to my current moveset of Crush Claw, Work Up, Thunderfang, and Ice Fang. So let's see if this is enough. On the very first turn, I decided to use a Crush Claw instead to see how much it would do. It did less than half, but it did get a defense drop. I didn't notice this at the time. I went and used Ice Fang on the Trumbeak and it actually missed. So I end up using another workup. The Trumbeak misses Supersonic. Then I go ahead and use Ice Fang on the Lurantis. The Trumbeak does attack me. I barely survive, heal up with the Shell Bell, and win. Okay, Silvally has actually been destroying Akala Island so far. Is it a good Pokemon, but compared to the other runs we've done? No, but it's still doing really good. But for comparison, Zekrom beat Olivia at 53 minutes on the clock. But to be fair to Zekrom, I didn't do any EV training that much in the early sections of the game, and I really paid the price for it in the late game. But Silvally effectively already finished the EV training. But the question is, will it be enough to deal with Olivia? I can't use Ice Fang or Thunderfang on her because those aren't good moves. Her Pokemon don't have a ground typing, they're all pure rock. In Coney City, I buy myself the Shadow Claw TM, and I'm not going to use this for Olivia right now. I'm going to save this for the Ghost Trial on Ula Ula Island. And before going into Olivia, I'm going to have the moveset Crush Claw, Work Up, Rest, and Hidden Power Grass. So let's get started with the fight. She leads off with Nose Pass. I go ahead and use Hidden Power Grass, and it only does a third. You may wonder why I didn't use a workup. I wanted to use one Hidden Power first to break the Sturdy. I set up to +4, then I'm going to go ahead and use Rest and wake up immediately with the Chesto Berry. Then I can knock out the Nose Pass. I get to level 30, deny Scary Face. Next up is the Bulldor. The Bulldor is going to be a 2-shot because of Sturdy. Then the Lycanroc doesn't have Sturdy, and I one-shot it with Hidden Power Grass. Okay, yeah, this thing's still doing incredibly good. It completely destroyed everything on Akala Island. It first tried all of the trials. You know, I just had this thought come to my head. I'm going to explain this as we go through with the Aether Foundation stuff. If you want to know what type Null's stats are, the pre-evolution to Silvally, it has the same stats in everything but speed. 95 and everything, but speed is 55 instead of 95. And since type Null can evolve, it might actually have been better to play with a type Null with an Eviolite. While yes, its speed stat would be horrible, think of the defenses it's going to have. I think I should really play that run at some point, but that's neither here nor there. I can clear out the Aether Foundation and fight How on Ula Ula Island. Normally this rival fight completely crushes me because of that Alolan Raichu, but today, I didn't die to the Alolan Raichu, I died to his Brionne using a Z move on me. You know, it's not often I see him use a Z move, but oh well, you don't have to win the fight anyway. But now that we are on island number 3, there are 3 major events here. We gotta do the Electric Trial, which I think we'll have a fair time against. The Electric Trial isn't really that good. There's also the Ghost Trial, which is kinda terrifying, but we do have an advantage because we are immune to Ghost, and we can learn Shadow Claw. Plus, the Mali City Pokemon Center sells the TM for Swords Dance. So I think my biggest fear in the fight is probably just Hypnosis from the ally Haunter or Gengar. And the final event is clear out Poketown and defeat Nanu. But before we go to the electric trial at the top of Mount Hakanali in the observatory, we're going to be buying some vitamins. And today's vitamin of the day is 8 iron. I couldn't get any protein or carbos because I already did natural SOS training, so I can't use any vitamins in those stats. So I decided to just get some iron instead. I could have infinitely re-fought the Marowak during the fire trial over and over again by guessing the first question incorrectly, but I didn't know of that strat at the time, and honestly, it's definitely a slower strat, but I can just buy the iron here. So now I can quickly clear out Mullane because he's not that good of a trainer, but he can be a good trainer if your only attacking move is Crush Claw and Hidden Power Grass. So I end up getting a blackout and I go back into the fight with Flame Charge. But why don't we go take on the Totem Vikavolt fight now? Right away, I use a Flame Charge. It does almost nothing because of its Oka Berry, but I do get a speed boost, which does allow me to outspeed and set up a workup. I do get paralyzed though, but I'm still going to outspeed the Vikavolt because Vikavolt has very terrible speed. But things just end up going so wrong here. I miss a Crush Claw at one point, then I get paralyzed, things are just a mess, and I black out. That's fine though, I'm right next to the observatory. Another thing I've never mentioned until now is that the Charge-a-Bug that helps out the Vikavolt actually knows String Shot, which can actually make your speed stat even worse. I get another blackout because of it. On my third attempt, I actually decide to equip an Expert Belt going into the fight, just to make Flame Charge do 20% more damage. And the Expert Belt ends up being the answer. And on the third attempt, I beat the Electric Trial. Wow, I actually can't believe the 2 trials that have given me resets in this run, the normal trial and the electric trial. Normally the easier trials are the ones that gave me resets. The harder ones, like the grass and the fire one, didn't give me any resets. That's actually pretty funny. I clear out the rest of the trainers on top of Mount Hakanali for some extra experience, go back to Mali City and purchase the Swords Dance TM, quickly beat up Guzma with this new move, and then head my way toward the Aether House. I have to do a bunch of dialogue here in order to start the Ghost Trial. I'm not really too nervous about the Ghost Trial, just because of the fact we are going to be immune to Ghost type moves, and we're going to have Swords Dance followed by Shadow Claw. And if we need to, we can use a Flame Charge on the Mimikyu to break the disguise and outspeed it. So why don't we just not waste any more time and go check out the Mimikyu fight. Right away on the disguise, I use a Flame Charge, break the disguise, and it just uses a failed Mimic because it outspeeds. Then it ends up spawning a Haunter. That's fine though, I can use Shadow Claw to do half to the Mimikyu, then I can knock out the Mimikyu. The Haunter does use a Hypnosis though and starts spamming Sucker Punch on me, but it does like hardly any damage. I wake up though, knock it out, and I first try the Ghost Trial. Okay, Silvally has actually been quite surprising so far. What kind of Pokemon first tries the Ghost Trial, but third tries the Electric Trial? Let me guess, are we gonna first try the Nanu fight too? Probably not, that guy is freaking powerful. I do actually get a few blackouts at Plumeria in front of the Aether House. Normally I get blackouts here if I forget to heal because I always forget she's a fight. Then actually I can continue on to the Ula Ula meadow, but before I enter, I can actually crawl underneath this camper right here and get myself the TM for X-Scissor. This is going to be a great move to have for Nanu. And so far in the run, Silvally is starting to fall behind because right now I'm only a level higher than Guzma's ace, Golisopod, and because of that, it outspeeds with First Impression because of its priority status after the Ariados has done a lot of damage with Sucker Punch, and I am actually getting a reset here because of it. Anyway, with Po Town cleared out, I get myself a rare candy on the Melee Beach. I can actually surf around the 10-carat hill right here in the Melee Sea, go to this little island, and pick up the TM for Rock Slide. This move is going to have its use much later in the game, mainly for Kahili, if I remember to actually teach it, of course. But for Nanu at least, I'm going to go into this fight with a moveset of Crush Claw, Swords Dance, X Scissor, and Flame Charge. So let's get started with the fight. Nanu leads off with Sableye. It's going to hit me with a Fake Out because of course it does. I use one Swords Dance and then one Flame Charge. That one Flame Charge will let me outspeed his whole team. Then the Krokorok brings my attack down to +1 because of Intimidate. Then last up is the Persian, it uses Fake Out. And then because of the fact I'm at +1 instead of +2, the Persian is actually able to knock me out with its Dark type Z move. And because of that, I get a reset. On my second attempt, I re-enter the fight holding another Citrus Berry, and because of the Citrus Berry, I am able to set up 2 Swords Dances, which essentially gives me +3 for the Persian. And +3 is enough, and I can one-shot the Persian with X Scissor and beat Nanu. So if I had known what the proper strat was, I would have first tried Nanu. But that's fine though, he's usually difficult for everybody anyway. I arrive straight to the Aether Foundation, but before I continue any further, I actually take the boat back to Mali City and actually go into this restaurant. Since it is nighttime, I can talk to this Oranguru, then this police officer, and get myself the TM for return. I can finally stop using Crush Claw and use a maxed out return with an effective power of 153. Normally Stab Return makes things really good, but like I said, this region is not friendly to normal types at all. Because remember, we have a Fighting type Elite 4 member coming up, and his name is not Bruno. Hala in the Elite 4 makes the Bruno Round 2 fight in Heart Gold Soul Silver looks like the hiker from Red and Blue. That's how tough he is. The entire Aether Foundation though doesn't provide any problems except for the very end with Guzma. You know how Guzma gave me a reset in Po Town? Yeah, he gave me a blackout. I forgot to save. So I end up having to go walk back, but I do beat him on the second try though. But the question is, will I end up defeating Lusamine? And if you want to know the answer to that, I actually do. Swords Dance is just that powerful. But with Lusamine defeated, we now have to head to Pawnee Island. There's only really a couple of events here. We have to take on the Kahuna fight with Hapu, then there is the entirety of the vast Pawnee Canyon, as well as the Captainless trial. And then there's the whole Lusamine fight in the Ultra Space Wilds. But I'm not sure if the Hapu fight's going to be that hard, because with access to Swords Dance and Stab Return, we should be pretty good, because the only Pokemon of hers that resists normal is actually her Dugtrio. But we can just use Flame Charge on it if we want to, it'll solve our speed problem. I do actually end up clearing out all of the trainers in the Pawnee Wilds right here. I end up doing it in 2 separate trips before and after Hapu becomes the Island Kahuna. I do get a couple of sporadic blackouts, including one reset, but that's fine though, it's to be expected. These trainers are downright terrifying. But right now, with all of the training done, let's go take on Hapu. We are level 53 for this fight, and our moveset is Return, Swords Dance, Shadow Claw, and Flame Charge. Right away, I'm going to go for Swords Dance as it sets up Sandstorm. Then it hits me with Earthquake doing less than half. Then I actually one-shot it with Flame Charge and get a speed boost. Next up is the Mudstale. Return is able to one-hit. I heal up with the Shell Bell. Then the Gastrodon's a one-shot with Return as well. The Sandstorm goes away, and I can one-shot the Flygon as well. Honestly, the attack EVs may not have been that useful after all, just because of the fact we get Swords Dance. But to be fair, we needed the experience anyway, so we may as well get some good EVs while doing it. I usually fight pretty much everybody in the vast Pawnee Canyon. This place is essentially this game's victory road, because the actual Victory Road, being Mount Lanikia, has no trainers in Sun and Moon. They only gave trainers to that place in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which is a very weird design choice, but whatever, it's not my prerogative. Usually one of the trainers here ends up giving me a reset or a blackout, but today, none of them do. So now, we can go ahead and take on the Captainless Trial. But while in here, you can actually pick up the TM for Dragon Claw. You could use it for this fight if you want to, which is another reason why this totem fight here is kind of a joke. So much a joke, I don't even bother teaching it for this guy. I'm just going to use one Swords Dance and then use Return on it, and it does have... That was embarrassing. Okay, fine, I'll teach Dragon Claw. On the second attempt, I use one Swords Dance, then Dragon Claw does 2/3, and then it hits me with Sky Uppercut doing massive damage. Then the second Dragon Claw is able to knock it out. Okay, that was kind of rough, I will admit. Good job, Komodo. You actually provided a challenge for somebody. Good job. Lucamine time. I can set up 3 Swords Dances here on the Clefable because it just likes using Metronome and Cosmic Power. But as long as I make sure I outspeed everything, I'm good. Which is why I did use a Flame Charge during this, on the Beware. And even though I do get away with using a Flame Charge, the fight ends up being very close because I end up hitting myself in confusion with +6 attack, which is a 30% chance in Gen 7, mind you. But that's fine though. I can knock out the Beware with an actual Flame Charge and get a lot of my health back with the Shell Bell. You may be wondering why Flame Charge did so much. Its ability Fluffy makes it take half damage from physical moves, but it does give it a fire weakness, so I am able to sort of exploit that. Before I take on the final 7 trainers, I go around the region and get the remaining couple of rare candies I skipped. And with the rest of the rare candies obtained, we're ready to take on Gladion. He leads off with Crobat. It only has Acrobatics and Cross Poison. I'm level 57 for this fight. I didn't use any candies yet. I'm going to use 2 Swords Dances, then begin the sweep with Return, although it does get off a critical hit Acrobatics, which is pretty painful. But fortunately, Flame Charge is able to one-shot the Lucario. I gain some speed, and that speed allows me to finish off his own Silvally and the Weavile. Okay, that was pretty easy, and thankfully there was no hail on this path. And also, I did find out how the weather works. There is hail here in certain hours of the night. So if I can just set my clock at a specific time at the start, I can actually prevent that or allow it, because if I was using Blizzard for that fight, like for his Crobat, then I could have it hailing to actually make it guaranteed accurate. But let's not worry about that today. We got How next. And with access to the move relearner, I could get our signature move multi-attack, but 1, it's weaker than Return, and 2, we don't have the memory discs. So let's just stick to this strat. He leads off with a Alolan Raichu. I go ahead and use 1 Swords Dance as I get hit with a very massive Focus Blast, but fortunately the second one does miss. Next up is the Flareon. I one-shot it with Return, as well as the following Komala and the Primarina. So yeah, I essentially needed a Focus Blast miss to win that fight. I went into this run knowing that. And now with the 2 rivals defeated on the first try, we can now take on the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. I first face off Acerola, the Ghost-type Elite Four member. She leads off with Sableye. I set up 3 Swords Dances. I keep hitting myself in confusion, which is ridiculous, but I have Shadow Claw on the moveset now. The Frostlass is actually able to outspeed since I meant to use a Flame Charge, but I forgot. But she ended up just missing a Blizzard anyway, and I just get pretty lucky. And the Palossand is a one-shot, which is surprising. That thing has extremely good defense. And then the Drifblim is last. Even though it's bad, its ability isn't. I still win, but at red health. Next up is the Flying-type Elite Four member, Kahili. I have a slight moveset overhaul. I replace Flame Charge with Rock Slide. I'm not sure if this was the right strat, because Flame Charge would be great to have for Skarmory, But that's fine though, I can just set up 2 Swords Dances and 2-shot it with Rock Slide. Although my health does get dangerously low because of a critical hit. I can defeat the Mandibuzz, then the Toucannon outspeeds and hits me with a Flying type Z move, and instead of resetting, I decide to just take the Blackout and keep the experience. Before I go back in, I actually use the move relearner to give myself Iron Head. I meant to have this, but I actually forgot. The move's going to be needed for Olivia. But right now, at Kahili again, I did use all of my rare candies as well to get to level 70. I'm going to go ahead and use 2 Swords Dances on the Skarmory, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to use a 3rd one. But it's not like it really matters, the Skarmory is going to be a 2-shot no matter what I do. Then the Mandibuzz is a 1-shot like normal, but the question is, am I going to outspeed the Toucannon? And the answer is yes, because if it outsped, it could have gone for that Flame Beak move. I can't remember what the move is called, but during that 2-turn move, if I hit it with a contact move, it burns me. So that would have been bad, but fortunately, didn't happen. Next up is the Rock-type Elite Four member, Olivia. For the first time in a while, I'm actually going back to Work Up because I have Work Up and Hidden Power Grass. My plan for this fight is to use Hidden Power Grass on the Relicanth after I use a couple of Work Ups to boost my special attack. I was thinking of actually getting rid of it right away, but since I got hit with Yawn, I decided it might be a good idea to just sleep on it, because for some reason, the enemy AI likes to use Yawn when you're sleeping. I have no idea why. It's been like that for several generations at this point. But once it's done, I can use a 4-time super effective Iron Head to 1-shot the Carbink. Then on the Probopass, its defense is really good. Iron Head isn't doing enough, and I have no idea why I'm not using Hidden Power Grass. I think I'm just being an idiot. And the Sandstorm does give it a 50% boost to its special defense. I mean, not like that would really matter anyway. Then on the Golem, it survives thanks to Sturdy, and the Sandstorm ends up knocking me out. Okay, I played that fight horrifically bad. I need to start that over. On the second attempt, I'm able to win at green health pretty much, without the Sandstorm getting up. So yeah, just play the fight correctly, and you'll get good results from it. Next up is the Fighting type Elite Four member, Hala. My moveset going into this fight is Iron Head, Work Up, Return, and Flamethrower. I got the TM for Flamethrower in the vast Pawnee Canyon next to the rare candy, and the reason I have Flamethrower is specifically for the Beware for super effective damage. Then the Hariyama used Knockoff to actually get rid of my Chopelberry. This was basically just in case it uses close combat, but whether it used that or Knockoff, fine by me. Then, with my 3 in special attack, I can just sweep the rest of his team with Return, Iron Head, and Flamethrower for the Beware specifically. Alright, that was the Elite Four. Wasn't really that bad. The hardest one was essentially Kahili because of speed problems. Well, Olivia because I didn't play her correctly. But we still have one more fight left. We need to take on Professor Kukui and claim our title as champion and finish this run. I go into the fight with the same moveset as before, I just changed my held item to the Shell Bell. Right away on the Lycanroc, I go for 1 Swords Dance, and then Stone Edge only does like a quarter, then I can one-shot with Iron Head. Next up is the Incineroar, I switch on over to Return. Okay, so far so good. Next up is the Braviary. I outspeed it and use Return on it, and the Shell Bell brings me to full health. Then the Ninetales is a one-shot with Return. Then the Snorlax is a one-shot with Return. And the Magnezone is going to be a 2-shot no matter what I do. So I use Flamethrower to try and prevent a full restore. And it works. I get to level 72 and clock in, with a real time of 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 49 seconds. With 6 resets and 16 blackouts at level 72, with a game time after the long-ass credits of 11 hours and 7 minutes. To be fair, this was probably the smoothest run I've ever played. I really did not expect this to perform that good. I actually thought that it was going to be a lot worse, especially because of the holo fights. But I think with proper planning and preparing for the Elite Four fight with a Choppleberry, I was able to prevent so many potential resets. It's a shame though, because if we take a look at the leaderboard, there's no way we're going to beat the Unova Dragons. But to be fair, I wasn't expecting that, because remember, we did start the game with Tackle, Thunderfang, and Icefang. And the Kahuna fight was still kind of difficult. I did have to do some basic EV training as well. But if we take a look at the rest of the leaderboard, out of the 7 Pokemon we've done, it did get 6th place overall. It wasn't able to beat out Incineroar and Primarina, but it did beat Decidueye. And I think the main thing that really held Silvally back was starting with Tackle and having the slow level up group. But the legendary dragons had the slow group and they were fine. I legitimately believe that was because they started with Dragon Rage. It's just a very broken move. But Silvally was definitely a fun run to play. It was just a shame I wasn't able to utilize the memory discs. But to be fair, we wouldn't have gotten multi-attack anyway. I probably would have just used them for defensive purposes. But anyway, that was all of Daily December finished. I cannot believe I actually managed to do this, but if you're wondering if I had any help, no, I did this all by myself. Voiceovers, editing, gameplay. I did have help sometimes with some of the runs with routing, like for Maxu Kairi Sora. I think Zealous Pawn helped me with a run or two, I don't remember, but I did get help from other people. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And be sure to follow me on my socials or support the channel through YouTube memberships. YouTube members will get access to the patch files for all the Mega Evolution Pokemon we play in Crystal, as well as members-only re-ranks that I stream in my Discord server. And with this video coming to an end, is an end to Daily December. I think I will do Daily December again in the new year, but I'm definitely going to plan out the runs in advance this time. I'm not going to decide what the runs are like 4 months before it starts. That was kind of a bad idea. And I'm not going to do the daily streams again. I thought it was going to be fun, but ended up just being very stressful because I wouldn't have all the videos done. But maybe, just maybe, if I can have all of those videos edited by the end of November, then potentially I might do the streams, but I'm not going to hold any promises to that. But in the new year, we'll be cycling through 14 different games. And I have all the videos planned out, so every game will get 6 videos. That is not counting live streams that go with the video. That is not counting the random solo run streams. They'll all get 6 fully produced videos guaranteed for the whole year. And I hope you're excited for it. There won't be a video this Friday because, come on, give me a frickin' break. But the videos will resume January 9th, where we will be playing Pokemon Red with Vileplume and Victory Bell. Those runs are going to be incredibly broken. But anyway, I will see you all in the new year. Look forward to some more Pokemon Moon runs. And tomorrow, I will actually do a random Pokemon Moon solo run stream. I quit doing streams during the final 10 days of December because I was absolutely burned out. But I'll do one random Moon run. And for 2026, Pokemon Moon will be the only game where if I do a random solo run stream, it will be fully evolved at Pokemon only. I don't want to do any first stages right now. I'll probably do first stages after that, but for now, the games are hard enough as it is. I'm going to do fully evolved runs only. But anyway, I will see you all in the new year.